that take care of that question?
Well, you didn't answer my question because heat tape only goes to like 40 degrees, 42 degrees.
Okay.
So that's not enough to...
I don't know, John. You want to try it?
No, not really. I was curious about it.
It'd be interesting to get somebody that has the actual experience that could relay to the rest of us whether it works or not.
I thought maybe you heard of people doing it.
Yeah, right. But we don't have an electrical
any
source.
What do you think of putting tar paper or wrapping them with something else?
Okay. We will. In our bee yard, we are going to do some things to help our bees. Number one is we're going to take straw and we're going to build a fence, which is going to be a windbreak. Straw bales cost $2.50 each. And what we will do is we will build a fence behind our hives, fairly close behind our hives, maybe give room enough for a person to walk behind. Now what happens if you take the straw and put it right up against the hive? No? You will have mice that just have a great place to live, and if they can get into your hive, bales of straw will draw the mice.
How high do you want them? As high as your...
We want them at least 2 bales or 3 bales high. That will get it to the top of the top cover so the wind will blow over. But that windbreak is almost invaluable if you have bees that are setting in an open field like we are here, with wind blowing across that field, and we do nothing. As a matter of fact, we're going to use Jim 2's hives down here as our test hives. We're not going to put bales behind his hives. So we'll see.
So you always want to block the wind from the west?
Yes. From the prevailing direction. If it is, probably what we will do here is we will put the bale for the 2 hives in the corner. We'll put bales just on the west side of those 2 hives. We won't worry about the north side. And you'll get a chance to see that. Now, Joy asked about putting black tar paper around a hive. The reason black tar paper is so effective is because black absorbs warmth from the sun. Okay? So if you wrap your hive in black tar paper, what it does, it provides a barrier from the outside. Not much to, to add any heat or anything, but what it does is when that sun comes out in wintertime, you may have 2 or 3 hours, but the bees can actually fly. And that warmth that hits that tar paper warms the front of the hive, the inside of the hive, much better than if you put a bunch of insulation around it to try to keep the heat in. Okay. And your bees will get out and take advantage of those warm days much quicker. And it also would be a break for the wind as well. So it's typical for a lot of people to take tar paper and use it around their bees in colder areas. Here in northern Ohio, a lot of people use tar paper. You don't see it too much in central Ohio or in southern Ohio. But,
you just staple it on the hives?
You can staple it or tie it with baler twine or whatever. You always want to put an upper entrance. If you use the tar paper and you wrap it real tight so that no moisture can come up and out of the hive, you're making a mistake. What you need to do is provide an air hole under your top cover so that that little opening with your inner cover allows that moisture out. And some people will even bore a hole into one of the top supers on their hive and then take a little piece of plywood with a hole drilled through it and just tack that on the front of the hive so that there is ventilation going in and out of that hive. Ventilation is very important. What happens if you don't have anything for the water, the moisture that condenses inside the hive? What do you have if this hive is going into winter, and all that moisture that they release from the metabolism of eating the honey and so forth, what happens to all that? It goes up, hits something cold, and then drops. It's like living in a rainforest. That is the worst condition you can have for your bees during winter.
It would seem if that's the case, then the place to put the insulation is on the top.
And you could put insulation. A lot of people used to call them blankets. You used to put a blanket or a pillow, you know, above the brood nest. You can take a super, a shallow super or a medium super, set it up there and fill it with leaves or something absorbent, and that would insulate the top. But have you ever noticed that how many of you again have kept bees for more than a year? Gone through at least one winter? How many of you noticed after a big snow, there is a spot on your top cover where the snow has melted away and you've got just a little hole that's exposed, and the snow around the outer rim is still there.
That's what made me think one of my hives was dead. One had it and the other one didn't.
Yeah. And yes, that's a good way to spot a hive that has died, because the hive that has died will be covered completely with snow.
I have a dumb question. I observed.
No questions are dumb.
There's a place that has marble slabs on top of their hives, and I added extra marble slabs, so that's my weight on top.
Okay.
Is that bad for the winter because that marble retains the cold?
No. I don't see any difference between you're talking about a tile that people use, like the 12 by 12?
No, I'm talking about this big by this big 30-pound marble slab.
Okay. I don't see any problem with it. As long as the moisture can get up and get out of the hive. The inner cover, by the way, air is an insulator. Keep that in mind. As long as you have an air barrier between the top of the inside of the inner cover and your top cover, you're going to have an air layer, and that will help insulate. Joy?
What about, should you leave the supers on in the wintertime? Will that help? As a very
Many beekeepers leave their supers on top of their bees, but I would always recommend that you put your inner cover over your brood nest, then stack your supers above the inner cover. Okay?
And as far as the black tar paper, what about, like, if you're putting that on there, not to take it all the way to the top, so that you have that air movement on the top?
Well, you know what, again, most people take it right to the top and they don't have their supers on. But I don't think the supers would be detrimental. I've seen hives of four deeps high, so somebody did not take the honey supers off, and they just left the bees as they were, and those bees were just fine. The only problem in that situation is the bees, instead of being down to bottom, have all moved to the top of the hive. And so in the spring of the year, what you have to do is go down, take all those top supers off and move them down, and then move the empty supers up on top.
Yes. You probably heard, maybe you didn't, I went to that Worcester seminar, and a gentleman from up north, they never quite say where.
Roy Hendrickson.
Yeah, he talked about, and this is what I've already set up to do, is building a box and insulating that box, putting it on top of the inner cover. Turn over your inner cover, that in the entrance, and put that on top. And then I'm planning on pushing two hives together, and I did make a cover for two. So I'll have an insulated piece on top, and still an entrance up there.
Right.
That's what he was recommending.
Right. Now Roy lives in the snow belt in Ohio. We don't even have any idea what snow is.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you live in the snow belt,
But that means
he is up toward Ashtabula.
But it doesn't get that cold there. It gets colder here.
Well, they get lake effect, which
That's snow.
provides them
Yeah.
with all that snow, and snow is an insulator too.
Right.
But